Everybody, and this is Ryan Koki of the Seahawk Recap Show. Seahawk game recap for the Titans versus the Seahawks for Week 16. And how are we all feeling? We are now 8-7 on the year. Merry Christmas to all who are celebrating. It was a very ugly win. I must admit that. 20-17 is not a win that I'm particularly happy with, but you know what? I'll take the win regardless. Anyways, let's get into the recap. And like I said, it wasn't the prettiest of wins, but it was a 20-17 win for the Seahawks at Nissan Stadium. And let's start off with the home team stats first of the Tennessee Titans. They had 287 total yards, 125 passing yards, 162 rushing yards, 4.5 yards per play, 23 first downs. They went 6 for 12 on third down, went 1 for 1 on fourth down, had 64 total plays, 6 sacks allowed, 3 punts. They had 10 penalties for 97 yards given up, 0 fumbles, 0 interceptions, and had 33 minutes and 51 seconds of possession time. For the Seahawks, we had 273 yards total, 215 passing yards, 58 rushing yards, 4.6 yards per play, 21 first downs. We went 7 for 13 on third down. We didn't go for it on fourth down. We had 59 total plays, 3 sacks allowed, 3 punts, 6 penalties for 47 yards, and most of those were actually personal foul penalties that were completely avoidable, but I'll bring that up in my final thoughts. And we had 0 fumbles and 0 interceptions thrown by Geno Smith this game after coming off of a groin injury for the last 2 weeks. Nice to see from him. We had 26 minutes and 9 seconds of possession time. That has been a problem for Seattle, is that we're getting into a position where our defense is playing a lot more of the games than they should, and our offense just keeps stalling out. So that does need to be fixed before we go into the playoffs as the 7th seed. Yeah, you heard right. We are in the playoffs right now with the 7th seed as the Lions had beaten the Minnesota Vikings today. So thank the Lions today, Seahawks fans, for beating Minnesota, because without that win that the Lions gave, we wouldn't be in the position we're at right now. But Ryan's focus players, let's talk about Ryan Tannehill for the Tennessee Titans first. He went 18 for 26, 152 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And the amount of injuries that the Titans had, Will Levis was out. Last week he had a high ankle sprain against the Texans, so he was not playing in this game. And it really shows the rust of Ryan Tannehill when he hadn't played a game since, I believe, week 6. But not a terrible game from Ryan Tannehill. You kind of expected at this point, when a man does not have the reps and the practice, to back up his game, there's going to be a little bit of rust on both quarterbacks. But we get to the running back, and it's Derrick Henry. Who else? 19 carries, 88 yards, 4.6 yards averaged, 1 rushing touchdown. And he also threw for a passing touchdown for 12 yards to this guy coming up, wide receiver Chenigozman Okwanku. Sorry if I mispronounced his name. He had 6 receptions, 63 yards, 10.5 yards averaged per reception, and had the 1 touchdown. It was a beautiful pass, and Derrick Henry, honestly, he's a great thrower. I believe he has 5 touchdowns in his career now. And man, to see a tight end be the number 1 wide receiver for the Titans with the amount of injuries they had to their offensive line, and to see how well they even played to keep themselves in this game, you got to give them props. For the Seahawks offense, though, Geno Smith had a very decent statistical game coming back. 25 for 36, 227 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a game manager game from him. Out 2 weeks because of a groin injury, and now we have him for the last 2 games of the season. And hopefully he can lead us into the playoffs because he played decent in this game. Now we get to Kenneth Walker, 16 carries, 54 yards, averaged 3.4 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns. Again, not a great game from Kenneth Walker. I'm not expecting him to put up 100 yards, but he put up 100 yards last week. So I'll take the 54 yards. It's just we really need him to get going in order to win games. And luckily, he got a bit of splashy plays in there to help this team out. And we get to wide receiver, and it's old reliable Tyler Lockett. 8 receptions, 81 yards, averaged 10.1 yards per reception, 0 touchdowns. But man, his stats don't tell the story. Without Tyler Lockett in this game, it would have been a heck of a different story because you look at Tyler Lockett and he was just reliable everywhere he went. Geno Smith was looking for him. He got the catches that he needed to make. There was an overthrown ball by Geno that he probably could have got to, but just was out of reach for it. But every other pass that we needed Tyler Lockett to make, he made. So a very good outing from Tyler Lockett. And let's get to the Seahawks defense. Dermont Jones, man, went 2 solo tackles, 1 assisted, 1 sack, no forced fumbles, but good to see the pass rush really working out. And Dermont Jones, really, really strong game from him, honestly. Even if his stats don't show it, he was getting pressure. Pass rush was working out, and that was a great thing to see. Another guy who had a really impressive game was Reek Woolen. 4 solo tackles, 0 sacks, 0 interceptions. Again, his stats don't tell the full story. In the game, he wasn't committing the personal foul calls that he's been committing this season as much. He kept it cleaner, and it's just nice to see Rick Woolen come after a game that he really had no business being in against the Eagles. He came in for what I think 2 drives, and he was obviously battling something, but he was starting today. So really nice bounce back game from him, keeping it clean and doing what he had to do. Next up, I'm giving it the linebacker award to Boy Amafe. 5 solo tackles, 1 assisted, 2 sacks, 0 interceptions. Good. Good job, Boy Amafe. You were really humming. You had 7 consecutive sacks, and now you're starting to finally get back on the board. And I knew you would. I knew you would be in a little bit of a slump ever since Inchano Wosu went down, but you have finally found some magic here against the Titans. Again, nice game from Boyamafe getting those 2 sacks. They were crucial in this game. Next, we got the Titans defense. D'Amico Autry, man, 0 solo tackles, but 4 assisted and half a sack, 0 forced fumbles. But with the amount of injuries to this defensive line, Jeffrey Simmons not isn't here, man. He's on IR. So D'Amico Autry, is the main guy when it comes to D line pass rush right now in that left edge role. So he did decently, all things considered, on the edge, and he was really instrumental in stopping the run game. When it comes to DB, we got to talk about Roger McCreary. 5 solo tackles, 2 assisted, 0 sacks, 0 interceptions, but he was just a pain. Like he seemed to be everywhere on tackles. Tackled some had some tackles against like DK Metcalf, had some tackles against Jake Bobo that were really nice. Was trying to stop the passing game, and even though he didn't get an interception on the stat sheet, he was really there, ready for making up some tackles as a corner. So, good game from him. And I'm giving the linebacker award to Harold Landry III. 3 solo tackles, 1 assisted, 1 sack, 0 interceptions. And again, man, Harold Landry has been with the Tennessee Titans since 2016. And man, this guy, 40.5 sacks in his career is nothing to scoff at. For an outside linebacker, he is really underrated, in my opinion. I would really love to have him on my team because he just seems like he brings a presence. And, again, this Tennessee Titans team made it really a close game than it should have been. But Ryan's final thoughts. The Seahawks defense actually got their pass rush together for what went well, and 6 sacks leading us to victory. That was really nice to see. Gino had a decent game, like I said, coming back off of a groin injury. So it was nice to see him back in the lineup, and hopefully he can lead us to the playoffs. We're riding Gino into the playoffs, guys. I know people were saying, "Oh, start Drew Lock. He had the hot hand and da 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 da." But again, he is a backup. Drew Lock knows his role. He knows that it's not his team yet, and we pay $100 million for 3 years. Of course, we're gonna have to use him as the starter when we're giving up that type of money. So I believe in Gino, and now that he's back, I think he can get his feet back under him and take us to the playoffs. But what to improve on, man? We were so lucky that the Tennessee Titans shot themselves in the foot with the amount of penalties they did. Honestly, 10 penalties for 97 yards given up. Like, that's insane. The fact that they just beat themselves and still were only down by a field goal at the end of the game just showed how prolific their offense was. That power run scheme that Derrick Henry can really be known for. Like, I know he's had a bit of a slump, but man, the guy has so much talent underneath him, and he's such a powerful runner. And I believe, again, I'm going to go back to the injuries. If this team was healthy, like they didn't have Will Levis. Will Levis, I believe if the Titans had Will Levis, it would have been maybe a toss up. Like it was still a toss up with Ryan Tannehill in there. So imagine what would happen if Will Levis was actually healthy and ready to go for this game. We could have definitely had lost this game. And Seattle really needs to improve on the run defense, and they also just need to improve on containing the quarterback. I know we had 6 sacks in this game, but letting Ryan Tannehill run, like again, he ran for a couple of plays there where I'm just like I'm looking at it and going, guys, you need to contain the run. And it just wasn't great. But again, my final thoughts. Oh no, I think it was a pretty ugly win, all things considered. We got away with one. And again, I'll take 8 and 7 any day of the week. So we got away with one, but a great win nonetheless. We just need to fix these things for the playoffs. Relying on Jason Myers is great, but if that's all you can muster in the first half is 6 points, you're gonna have a hard time in the playoffs. I just hope we'll be ready with that offensive scheme because we really um, haven't really shown up in these last couple games, and we really do need to show up against the Steelers and the Cardinals because those two games could be trap games. For the Titans, though, you guys really again shot yourselves in the foot with the amount of penalties you took. However, you still kept the game within reach and you fought to the bitter end of the game, man. Like there was still a question mark where we were going to go into OT. If we had one mess up on offense, like a pick or something, that could have sealed the game for the Tennessee Titans because they were up 10-6 at half. Like they were going into halftime, I believe, up 10-6. So, we could have lost and that would have been really, 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 really bad for us. But only losing by a field goal, you know, you guys, I wouldn't say you should be proud of that, but you guys really showed some heart there, to have backups in the majority of the game. Like I looked at the injury report for you guys, and I can't tell you who was exactly on the injury report, all the injuries you had, but I know Sean Murphy Bunting wasn't there. I know that Will Levis wasn't there. I know Jeffrey Simmons wasn't there. And those are key guys for your team. So I would just look at it and go, you're already eliminated from playoff contention, but you guys have some fight left with Mike Vrabel as your head coach. So good game from Tennessee, and I hope you guys will figure it out in the future because I can't wait to see what you guys will do in the future with Will Levis and company. But anyways, guys, that is it for the Seahawks game recap. Titans versus Seahawks for week 16. 2 games to go before the playoffs. Let's see if we can build on this 2-game winning streak, and let's make sure that we don't have to come back and win for a second straight game. Let's actually have a very dominant game against the Steelers because I know we can. It's a team in free fall, and we should be really prepared to play the Steelers next week in week 17. I will see you guys all there. This is Ryan Koki of the Seahawks Recap Show signing off. Go Hawks, go! And Merry Christmas and have a happy New Year to you all.